right, gentlemen, welcome to another session of Tactical Tuesday. I think it's been a while since when it was out. We had a couple sessions. Some of those were just kind of jam sessions and talking about general stuff. This one's a little more on point. What we have today is what to do or experiences that you have when something kind of doesn't go your way or your plan falls apart or things like that. You're planning for a flank on this side. You've got your troops situated. You're ready to go, and something happens and completely just derails that plan. Also, where you have a great attack and or you just get annihilated, and then it's like, oh my gosh, I just lost, right at the beginning of the game. So we've got two examples. We've got an ASL example, the game that I'm playing. It's Ambush, one of the old partisan scenarios, where it starts to look grim. Like on turn one, he gets a couple of advantages. Things don't look so good. My entire plan kind of falls apart, and I just got to kind of trudge forward. And then I come to a realization later in the game, and I'll let you kind of watch the video to find out what that is. Second game is an SK game, starter kit game. So you go into the game, same sort of idea, same sort of player mentality. You're going into the game, you've got a good plan, and then it all just kind of crumbles on turn one. Literally, both of these games where plans were kind of really thrown out of whack on turn one. So what do you do as a player to continue on and try to do your best? It's like, well, I give up on turn three or something like that, and he's got a couple broken units. Players give up far too often, and you're not going to learn anything, even though it's going to be very difficult to get back to where your point is. Try something that you normally wouldn't try in a game, right? So say your right flank is gone and you can't get the victory conditions. Well, if he's got like a tank over here, take 3 infantry units and charge the tank and see if you could actually get to the tank with 3 infantry units. Try and accomplish a sub goal within that scenario. Try a little something that you normally wouldn't do. Go CE on your tank, bust ass on the road, get behind him, and machine gun his guys. Overrun his guys in a stone building. Anything. Just do something differently than that you haven't done in a game when it's really down the tubes. But only when it's like super late and it's almost no mathematical way of winning. Just try one of those little sessions there. You already have the game set up. You've got a situation where you could take advantage of, and then go for it. See what happens. At least it'll give you some experience and roll some dice on it. And you never know. It might come out with a positive. So anyway, here's the episode. Hope you guys like it. Double speed if you don't have a lot of time. Watch it on your lunch hour, a couple lunch hours, things like that. So anyway, we will catch you later, and we'll catch you at the end. Thanks. To me will reveal ASL 28 Ambush. This is an old partisan scenario in the partisan module about 50,000 years ago. And they've incorporated this in Armies of Oblivion or whatever silly minor module they have now for it. I don't know if they changed anything in it, but I don't care. I think this is the original ASL 28 one. So lesson to be learned here is when you're playing along in your games, so you're playing along, both you guys sit down, it's all about, this is going to be like a lesson of mental stalwartness and focusing on keeping focus on the game, keeping focus on the victory conditions, regardless of what happens. In this particular scenario, if you could read the victory conditions, I, as the Bulgarians, which are the green units, I simply need to get 7 of my good order squad equivalents to the right side on hex row I or further. So pretty much I need to run across a shitload of open ground versus a whole bunch of partisans. And it was kind of fun, Mark, when I was playing this, it's like, hell yeah, I got an advantage here because I've been playing 15 scenarios of units with shit firepower. So I was ecstatic about this one because I know what we could do. You and I, we've been battling that out. We know the capabilities of the troops involved on both sides, so it was really interesting. Yeah, and those lessons really came to home because In this one here, there's a lot of 3 firepower partisan units, and so they have essentially no firepower past 3 hexes, and up to 3 hexes they only have 2 firepower. And because this is in the ancient times, the prehistoric times of ASL, like 99% of the scenarios, the partisans could not combine multi-location fire groups. So 2 units next to one another can't combine firepower and kill something. They have to fire independently. And of course, we all know the problem when you want to get a big fire stack is now you have all your eggs in one basket and they break. So essentially, he kept all of his partisans non-stacked, and so to give him more firepower, because we have about the same number of units. He has 12. I've got like 14, and then like 4 or 5 broken units to start the game with. It's really kind of odd, but my morale is shit, as miners are. I'll break this guy here. 6 on the backside. Half squads are 5, so they don't rally quite well. And the funny thing is, I had a 7-0 leader in B5 for like legit 3 turns. So you're talking 5 rally phases. 5 rally phases. I couldn't rally these units, and they were in rally terrain. So that just goes to show you that, well, you know, low quality troops, low quality units are going to have a difficult time to rally. So you can't expect them to be up and running like your 8 morale units. You know, I can. It's really funny when you're playing someone that plays nothing but like the 468 Germans, you know, the elite Germans all the time. Give them some shit troops like this, and you'll see that they will just be completely annihilated because they're used to 8 morale units, and these guys, you can't really do stuff. So I've got to trudge my way across the open ground, taking shots, and again, anything past 3 hexes is going to be a 1-2. So a lot of people just want to avoid the 1-2 shots, but you know, for me, he's only got so many shots that he can take. You know, he's not going to leave any residual past 3 hexes, and so you just kind of move and you take the 1-2s, and hopefully he won't roll less than a 6. Because if he does, you're taking a 1 morale check, and that's not good news. But about this point in the game, this is turn 4, my turn, and then we keep going on. I'm just going to log file through this one. He fires a couple guys. Oh yeah, especially and on turn number 1, I fire on his leader that has a medium machine gun, which is captured machine gun, in G3, and of course that leader battle hardens on turn 1, and he battle hardens into a 9-2, and I've got to cross a whole shitload of open ground, and so I'm just going to get shredded. Any moving in the open is going to be assault. Moving in the open is going to be a -3 shot, and he'll have minus shots on all the woods. My concept was, I have a whole lot of light machine guns in this location here. My concept is to put my machine guns up here, pepper this guy, break him, so my troops can make it across this gap. Well, that never occurred, and so my entire frontal plan pretty much just kind of fell apart, and these units just kind of like sat there with their thumbs up their asses, pretty much. They really couldn't do a lot. If I stuck them forward, I couldn't really stack them to take advantage of the 8-1. The 8-1 is there for a different reason, not necessarily to lead the troops, but for another reason that we're not going to go into right now. It's not a big deal. But so that was a Debbie Downer right at the beginning. I mean, literally turn 1, he's a 9-2. It's like, oh my god, what the heck am I going to do about this? So we proceed. I just continue with the plan. Right, the plan's to shove most of my guys south, because this tree line blocks most of the line of sight from this, and then at some point I'm just going to advance phase, and then assault move, advance phase. So I've got to get up here fairly quickly to keep moving. So I'm just like Debbie Downer. Plus, another thing is, you know, I've got my regular plan. I kind of didn't want to play this game on that particular day, night, whatever. Kind of grumpy the way my opponent was like, oh my god, I can't play this weekend, that weekend, this, that, and the other. So it's already started out negative in terms of the excitement of trying to play the game. But luckily it was an old squad scenario, so that I had a thing for it. And then he got a 9-2, which kind of Debbie Downer. I was super tired because I'd gotten up like at 6 o'clock the morning before, and I'm not a morning person, and just super tired. So lots of things happened. Exhausted, attitude, Bad things happen to me in the beginning of the game, and about turn 5, it's like I was thinking about this point right here. I was thinking about the victory conditions. Like, okay, I need 7 guys across that line. He's got 2 guys in front of me. He's got a medium down here. He's got a medium up here. He got God knows what back here. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So pretty much I can only lose like 3 squads that are broken. And I've got 4 hexes to go to. It's like, there's no way in hell I'm going to win this game. It's just not going to happen. You got a -2 leader. He takes a 1-3. Something's breaking. I mean, that's a normal morale check on a 7. And if he gets any decent shots, it's going to be bad. And then these guys are eventually be point blank. 6 even shots are going to be very bad. And I have to be in good order across that line. So not only do I have to get there, I have to be in the open and stay alive in the open at the end of the game. So I thought, right? And this goes back to the lesson where make sure you read the victory conditions and make sure that you understand what exactly have you do. Because I was looking at the victory conditions at this point and I said, this is bullshit. Even if I get my guys across that line, then he has the last turn to break my guys. So he's got another prep fire phase. He could just shoot them and he has another free shot. And then at this point, I read the victory conditions because it was during his turn or during some little bit of downtime. It's like, actually those victory conditions. Yeah. The Bulgarians win at the end of any player turn in which they have 7 or more squads. So how that changes things is then all I have to do is get across that line at any turn and have 7 good order units at the end of essentially at the end of the advanced phase, and I'm golden. And I said, oh shit, I actually have a chance, because if I can get across this line before he maneuvers units into position or whatever, then I could do it. And so that's kind of what I did. Is after rereading the victory conditions, I'll punch through the log here, and you'll see a couple things happen. Not a big deal. He skulks back. He was skulking the whole game, which is just fine. I mean, that's the strategy that he was going through. And then and also for all the support weapons that he has functional that he captured by me, that makes it my job much more difficult. So if he doesn't use any of his machine guns, then he can make my life a lot more difficult. And I have a lot of guys in the bottom there, so I'm just trudging through. And again, you don't see nothing happened up top the entire game. Everything was in the bottom. And then these units here, and in terms of just strategy now, not in terms of mental fortitude, I think now it's like, okay, I've just got to get guys across. So primary things. I think this is already screwed up. No, yeah, because there should be a unit back there. See, these log files are complete shit, to be honest with you. I think maybe I think Zetkov advances. Yeah, advances here. So again, with your leaders, gentlemen, 6+1. This is not a 6+1 leader, but it's a 7-0 leader, almost equivalent to my 8 zeros that I have all over the place. Because he is not part of the victory conditions, it was easy for him to get to his location. And what did I do here? My primary thing is to DM him, because it's hard to rally. Look at those values. He's got 6 morale and a 5 morale. He's not rallying. You know, I actually rolled a snake eyes on a rally back here, and all it did was disrupt me in ASL terms. So it just screwed me over. So it forces these guys not only to become DM, but to get the hell out. Get the hell out of my forest, because this is where I'm coming from. If he should happen to get a good rally here, then he'll be within range of shooting on my guys. So I don't want those guys to even be there. If they want to rally back here or wherever he ends up going to, that's fine. He won't be able in the area that I would need to be. So that's why I set my leader there. If he wants to shoot at my leader, he can't shoot at the items that are going to win me the game. So that was the idea of the 7-0 there at that point. Also, because this was late in the game, okay? I don't want to do that early in the game because I need the leader to rally units. late in the game, if he broke anybody on this turn, it's his turn. Let's say he breaks somebody in the front line, and I low crawl back. In my turn, at this point, it'd be my turn. I move first, so let's say if it was turn 5, I don't need any more leaders, because if it's broken on his turn, then I've got my rally phase with a DM, which I'm not going to rally him, just like he's not going to rally in his phase, and then I've got his turn, which again, needing a 6, not very useful, and then the beginning of my turn 7, which would be the last turn they can be useful, I'd still need a 6. So you evaluate the value of the leaders and their ability to rally units. I've got a broken unit here. I just left him. He actually has a support weapon. I left him. He has no value to me. This leader moving here from that location forces this unit to DM and get the hell out of dodge, because my guys are coming, and they're coming hard and fast, and they're looking at a meaty machine gun in the face. So I have to make a move to make him get DM'd to get out of dodge. So evaluate what your leaders can do, and if I rally that unit, if it's turn 7 or at the beginning of his turn 7, it's not going to do any difference. You know, he has no impact on the game, so use your leaders to do something else. Just abandon those guys if they haven't rallied. And so, you know, at that point, you know, at turn 5/turn 6 is when I revisited the victory conditions based upon me being tired. Nothing is happening at all up here, and I had seven squads almost committed to the top portion. Nothing ever got done with those units, so those were kind of a waste. But my other troops down here were in process of fulfilling the victory conditions, and at this point, I felt very confident. Whereas before, it's like, you know, I was like, you know, hem-hawing about turn 3. Very confident at this point, because I revisited the victory conditions and refocused, like, oh wait, this is what it means. This is how I can win. And so, again, this is a long-winded example of always go back to the victory conditions to make sure you know what the hell you need to do. You know what you need to do in the game to try to win. Bakalov, even here, he has access to becoming part of the victory conditions. He has to run it out in the open, but there's still those might be some free units I can get across. But he didn't quite make it, but he tried. But I ended up scooting a whole bunch of guys across right at the end of turn 6, and or at the beginning of turn 6 or end of beginning of turn 7, I think, or something like that, and actually ended up winning the game, but only because, you know, I revisited the victory conditions, which allowed me to focus more on what I actually had to accomplish, is just to clear a little window, not a big one, but just a little window for a couple of my guys to go through to be able to pick up the victory. And if I had just kind of like ignored the scenario card and we played out to turn 7, you know, thinking that it has to be at the end of the game that I have to have them there, your decisions are going to be a lot different during that game time. And so it just goes to show you that, you know, based on whatever mental state that you're in, refocus, and whatever means you want to do. Go get a drink of water, you know, go outside for a 2-minute walk, say, hey, I gotta go to the bathroom, go outside. If it's nice and cool outside, like in Mark's neighborhood, go outside and, you know, chill out just for like 2 or 3 minutes, come back in, you know, it's no big deal. And then drink some cool water. Like where I'm at right now, it's like 100 freaking degrees in my garage, and I'm just melting. So all those little things can take you off your game. And it's like poker. Anytime I want to go try and play poker, if I'm not feeling my best, if I'm not feeling the most attentive or healthy or distracted, if any of those things occur, I never go play poker, regardless, because I'm not giving my all for the game. I'm not ready to win. And the same thing here is you have to make sure that your mental facilities are ready to win at all times. You know, and I always talk about, you know, losing key leaders, losing key support weapons, stuff like that. Try to make that stuff just slide off your back, like, you know, water on a duck's ass. You know, just try to make it slide off your back. No big deal. Focus on the game. One unit's not going to make or break the game. It can hurt. Sure, it could hurt a little bit, but who's to say you weren't gonna roll anything but tens with that guy? You know, I mean that's simple fact. If he fires 5 or 6 times in the game, let's see, he rolls a 5 one time and then 8, 9s, 10s the other times. He's worthless. So I don't care if he's a -3 leader. If you're not rolling dice on him, it doesn't really matter. So it sometimes he won't have any impact on the game, and that's my best leader, and he had 0 impact in the game. My 0 leaders, 8-0, 7-0, another 8-0, were the ones holding down the fort. And so just to make sure to keep focus on the game, see what happens, because you never know what the next dice roll is going to be. It could be something really crazy. Matter of fact, he rolled like a couple 12s mid to late in the game on rally rolls, and so he just like killed his own units. And he got a lot of half squads. I think a couple half squads up here because he rolled 12s. And he just took casual reductions on those. He actually did that twice, so which was interesting. I mean, I didn't get that many morale checks on him, but little things like that really go a long way. So that's what we have here. And Craig, do you have your game? You want to load up your game, Craig, and we could discuss the first 2 turns in your game that we discussed yesterday?
Sure. Let me close this.
All right, and just go ahead and chat us through your mental state during your game here.
Okay, so this is S13 priority target. We got the Australians and Greeks here with the Beaufort A guns. For those who haven't played it before, the victory conditions are the Germans have to capture or destroy the 3 Allied guns. I played this scenario a number of times, and it seems like even when I played the Allies, whoever plays the Allies tends to set up here, in these wheat fields over here. So I was really intrigued by my opponent's setup. This was his first game after 40 years of not playing ASL, so he was it was a knock off the rust game, but pretty decent initial setup. So typically what I like to try to do in this scenario is I'll enter from 4 different directions. So if I break one of his units, then he's eliminated for failure to rout. But in this case, I couldn't come in from this side, or at least I guess I could, but all that open ground just didn't make sense. So my idea here was to kind of modify that. I've got my DC there, a DC here. They were going to come in and try to take out these 2 guns. These guys were meant to tie up here and perhaps prevent these units from crossing over to reinforce. So that was my plan. Let me click here. So we'll start obviously the movement. So I start out with half squads, breaks that one, and I'm trying to maneuver so that I make him swing his gun around, so there's at least a +1 or a +2 just for the covered arc change. So I want to make him swing back and forth as much as possible. Here he takes a shot from those guys and he breaks them, and you can see this first turn was pretty brutal. So go through here, takes a shot from up there. I made a couple mistakes. I forgot what I was going to do. They weren't critical initially with the mistakes that I made. Let's see. So advancing fire, route phase, advance phase. So there we are. No close combat. Okay, the end of my turn 1. Not horrid. Had a couple broken units to be expected. But, I'm feeling pretty comfortable with where I am. I realize that it's a little hazardous here, but I'm putting the pressure on him. So, try some rallies here, and I don't rally anything. Then he preps. He fires his Boffer and had no effect. I think that was that 10 that he rolled there. No effect. But then he tries his Greek half squad. I think he was going after here. He rolls a 3. And I break. Or I think what happened here? That was the leader. The leader passed and the squad. Oh no, the leader pinned and the squad broke. Then he took a shot from, I think that was from this half squad. Rolls another 3. And my leader, he's still pinned again, or he remains pinned. And the half squad breaks again, so he's eliminated. Then he took a shot. It must have been the Boffer, just took a shot and got a KIA, I think. Yep. So that eliminated the half squad there, and he kept rate. So he took another shot. I did okay with that there. From that shot, he breaks the squad that was adjacent in the woods. He tries a shot there. Again, he rolls a 4. Breaks those guys. Or eliminates those guys.
Jesus.
Breaks there. Over here he takes shots. He breaks the ones that are adjacent. So now I'm trying some defensive fire with what I have remaining. He kind of made a mistake here. He could have fired this guy. He didn't. Could have fired this guy. He didn't. Might have done a long range shot there, but he didn't. So I think he just sort of forgot. So now, let's see, advance phase. Close combat. He goes into close combat here and eliminates me. So now we're at the end of, or the beginning of turn 2. My losses are pretty heavy, and I've got broken units all over the place here. And after one turn, I'm feeling pretty dejected and thinking, well, maybe we just start this over again so I can give him a decent game for his first time back after 40 years. But the whole point was just to exercise the rules, and it's like, okay, we'll press on. So now, and you can see he was rolling pretty well. We brought up the averages here, and his IFTs were well below average. And even though I was rolling an average of 8 of my morale checks with a 1 check or a 2 check, I'm going to fail all of those. So, okay, so I normally don't prep fire this much, but I'm kind of feeling like, well, I need to break him now. So, and of course, I don't get any results from this. I try advancing since he was out of that building. Figure, well, I'm going to try to advance slowly here. Of course, he pins 1, and I'm going to try to go after that gun, draw the fire best as I can, and having some pretty good luck with that half squad. And then he finally breaks. Pretty risky move for me there, though, because now I've got nowhere to route. I wonder if I might have made a mistake when we routed, now that I think about it. Let's see, advancing fire. Let's see, could I route there? Oh, I guess that was a mistake. I routed there and I should not have. That brings me closer there, so that was a mistake. Actually just noticed that. Advance phase. Go into close combat here.
That's the same distance, Craig, on that route.
It is. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
So yeah, you're good. Yeah, it looked tricky. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks. So let's see. Close combat. I roll a 10, even though this was I've got 6 to 2. It's I'm rolling 3-to-1 odds, and and he rolls a 3. I'd actually I had gotten ambush, fortunately. Had I not gotten ambush, he would have casualty reduced me in this one. So he had a +1 on his roll. So that saved my bacon in that melee. All right, so his turn 2. Preps a little bit, and now his rolls aren't quite as good, and mine begin to improve. He kills another half squad there, doing some defensive fire, and I guess his thought process was he's got these units staying here in the buildings, in the protection of the building. They can still provide plenty of covering fire for at least this last gun. Whether or not you think that perhaps he might have moved closer to defend it or not, personal opinion. I think I might have tried to move at least something closer. Okay, so where are we here? Advancing fire. Allied advancing fire. Yeah, I guess we're having a discussion. Oh, I guess we're routing here. So a lot of this is discussion about what's the target hex. All right. So now my turn 3. Things are looking not great, but I've made a little bit of progress, I guess, and I haven't lost quite as much as I did on that first turn. So, and I'm thinking I've got an opportunity. So I'm going to go for it here. The rally phase is going to. Oh, that rally phase didn't help. I lost another unit. Let's see. He rallies 1 squad. Okay, so prep fire 1 squad down here. I'm hoping that I'll break him, so then I can go after this gun. And I do. And I think that's the extent of my prep fire. So I'm going right into movement. Now perhaps he might have done some shots, particularly from this Boffer earlier, while I was maneuvering here. So now he brings it around, takes a shot, and he breaks me there. I get lucky with a smoke, because I was concerned about these guys, so I want to get some cover, try to advance. He still first fires, and I guess on that one, he fired from there with no effect. Fired final fire from there. And one mistake you may notice as we're going through, when he subsequent first fires with the Bofors, forgot to reduce his breakdown number by 2. Okay, so now I'm advancing, and now I'm starting to get some passing my morale checks. So since I broke this guy, I had an opportunity to now maneuver behind the woods and approach this gun from the other direction. So he has to change his covered arc 3 hex spines. So he takes first fire there, no effect. This is one spot where he fired again for final fire. He rolled a 10, so we actually should have mouthed the gun, but we missed that. Why did he break? Maybe we didn't. Oh, he did final protective fire there. That's what he did. And so his crew broke, and the gun should have broke in that case as well. So now I'm advancing on the Greek squad. Let's see here. Advancing fire. I break. So now I broke this crew, and I've broken this crew, and I've got them surrounded. So both of those crews are eliminated for failure to rout. Go to the advance phase. So now suddenly, just from what I look like at the end of turn 1, to now here at turn 3, the shift was just, in my mind, remarkable. Part of it was, I think my opponent made a couple mistakes, but so did I. So I think the swing, like with Stu's scenario, suddenly it went from being dark days to there's a light at the tunnel. I don't think I've got it won. He still has some pretty good forces here, but things are looking good. Let's see here, close combat, and I got lucky. I win the close combat there. Oh, and then we get to his turn 3. So I think that's what the part that, Stu, is that what you wanted me to sort of highlight, was how things swing from one side to the other when you just don't give up, never surrender.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you guys noticed on by the end of Craig's turn 1, I think he had 6 squads on the bottom. Only one of them was good order. So that could have been extremely disastrous. And like he said, he got pinned up in the close combat in V2. He didn't kill the guy on a 3-1 -1 or 2-1 or 3-1 -1. It's just things like that. Little things can add up that can throw you off your game. And at least, like Craig said, if this had been like against maybe one of his regular opponents, they probably, like he said, well, we'll just restart it since there's no way this is going to happen. But since the purpose of the game is just to knock off the cobwebs, they just went through it. And again, it's just another example, is if you continue on what you're trying to do, you never know what's going to happen during that next turn. I mean, you don't know that he's going to come surround your guys. You don't know that he's going to fire on your guys. You don't know that his Bofors aren't going to roll 10s on their attacks, during that turn. Maybe he mouths 2 of them or something like that. And as Craig pointed out, they actually missed the malfunctions on the weapons, which in turn could have, thrown his opponent into the, dark days sort of thing. Like, oh my gosh, I lost 2 guns in 1 turn, and this is only turn 2 or 3. It's looking, I mean, I'd be really gripping it at that point, especially since the 8 morale, and now they have an approach on that last AA gun. So even continuing this, not only as the German player, but the Allied player now has to perform those same mental strategies of trying to keep focus, trying to keep the objectives. What does the German need to do? What can he give up? And so on and so forth. And now you just definitely focus hard on what to do. And sometimes, like the 7-0, at this point, well, he needs to rally, but if he had a free unit to get rid of, usually leaders are ones to block, he could do very similar things like I did, at least with Foster. Foster's over here. Is he going to rally these guys anytime soon? What do you guys think?
Yeah.
No, he's not going to be rallied, because heck, he could just drop that demo charge and this guy could pick it up. He's got guys down here. These guys are going to stay DM'd. So Foster's ability to rally these 6 morale units is very low. So what could you do with Foster in this case? What could you do to give Foster some value in this game? Very similarly what I did with my 7-0. Move him. Get him in the way. Move him over here. Move him to Z3. Right? Go boom, 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 and then advance to Z3. So what's he have to do? He either has to prep fire, which means he's not moving, or he has to move around him. Well, which way is he going to go? This way, he's sucking up lots of movement factors. So if he goes this way, it's going to be CX, or he goes in the open ground. So it's a win-win. I mean, if he wants to fire on you there and break you and he dies, guess what? You just slowed him up. What might give your other guys an opportunity to get into position. Might be able to get... Over here, Foster's is out of the game. He's doing absolutely nothing in this location, and his value of rallying these particular units is much lower. Much lower. And considering he needs to stop the last AA gun from getting destroyed, and there's only legit like 3 squads that can get near it. You know, these guys are kind of far away, have to go through his main force. These guys down here, 1, 2, 3, he's got 4 squads to do it. If he could delay one squad, you know, the Bofors might be able to take the other squad out, and these guys are probably 1 to 2 movement phases away, which means these guys might be able to do something. So make sure, even up on both sides, Craig rallied his mental facilities to come back in this game to help out his buddy to knock off the cobwebs. I mean, that was the primary purpose of why they continued. And then also, as the allies, you have to do the same thing. You say, you know, particularly in their games, like, hey, I'm knocking off the cobwebs. Let's just continue this game. Let's see how it unwinds, and let me just see what happens. You know, and kind of take that approach to all of your games. A lot of guys will just, I know a lot of guys will quit this, and there's just, squad leaders just so much more than just playing to a point where you think you can lose. I mean, 3 to 1. I mean, 3 to 1 minus 1. Who misses that? I mean, that's a 9. All he needed was a 9 over here, because that was a half squad, and he would have killed him. But he missed him. He rolled a 10. There's a 1 in 6 chance of him missing that, and he missed it. Same thing. Give your opponent an opportunity to miss what rolls he needs to get. You know, maybe the leader goes over here. Or guess what? What else could this guy do? Very important. What else could this guy do other than blocking? And that's kind of throwing away, right? Hell, go 2 forward and jump that guy in close combat. Jump him in close combat. Take the demo out of the game. That's a kill. If he gets killed, these guys aren't going to rally. You know, jump him in close combat. Jump him in close combat. These leaders are vulnerable. This leader has 1 firepower. That's 1 to 1, and the modifiers aren't going to apply. So that's huge. I would probably go against this guy up here, simply because if this 548 is going to come over and jump in close combat to finish you off, then now he only has 1 unit on that top part, and then you could really make something happen. So opportunities are there, gentlemen. Opportunities are there to swing the game around. Yes, we normally get things done with our squads. Yes, we normally get things done with our Bofors, our LMGs, or so on and so forth. Like Craig in this one. Craig's bottom attack was really solid. He had put both of his -1 leaders in this bottom portion, just for his main assault to get up to distract his guys over here. A lot of guys would use their -1 leaders to take on the Bofors. So does he need to do that? No, it wasn't Craig's plan. So, but luckily, those -1s are also very useful in rallying. And why is that? Well, I mean, another good reason, I'm not sure if Craig did it, I'm sure he did, is there's no rally terrain down here, gentlemen. So you're using your -1 leaders to simulate the rally terrain, the extra 1 bonus that you're going to get for rally terrain. There's nothing down here.
Yeah, the other aspect that really saved me too was, you know, in turn 1 he eliminated the leader that I had with this group. So 1 leader had to run over here to try to rally those guys.
Yeah, and that's crazy, and that's really crazy. And at least these guys, like I say, I mean, with his -20 go over, but your 8-0, you don't have to have your -1s, you know, in your best cover. I think is a really good plan here. That's pretty decent. It's +1, you know. This fire got +1. Same thing over here. It's gonna be +1, you know. You know, is he going to be vulnerable if he keeps rounding? Sure, but you know his defense goes higher, and so make sure you have that also in your thought process of, okay, like my -1 leader, Craig did what he had here, exactly what I did with my -1 leader. I used my -1 leader to kind of like go mano-y-mano with his guy and see who's going to end up. You know, he's going to come. This is the hardest, you know, nut to crack. Or all these buildings and hindrances and all that other crap. It's going to be hard to get through here. And so he needs to take his good units to get through here. Back here, it's just like you're just walking through the forest and, you know, counting the daisies in the field sort of thing. And hopefully you'll get there and you'll be able to take them out. But things will happen. And guys like this, you know, I don't know if you guys remember the old Clearing Colville. The 6+1 leader that could swing around the Americans in the back and cut off some of the route paths. You know, anything like that can really throw a damper on the Germans. Killing either of these leaders, this is turn 3, Allied turn 3, halfway through the game, and guys are breaking left and right. So if we take leaders out, then that can go a long way. That can go a long way. Matter of fact, this unit could just go 2, 4, 5, re-DM that guy if that were the case, and then go 6 and then jump here. Of course, you'd probably want to avoid the -2 shots. But that's possible. If this guy was not DM to keep him out of the fight, you could probably just pop here, take the chance of his firing. And again, if he's firing there, he's not firing in Bofors. Just saying. So, use your leaders. And a lot of guys will ignore the leaders that are running around doing nothing, but they could do a lot. You know, they could set up your units to do well, and think of it that way. You know, a lot of guys will just say, okay, I'm just going to assault move here, you know, for when these guys, or prep them to route down here, right? If this DM were gone, this unit can very well go 2, 4, 5, right? Then these units can then route here, and then he can advance back here, and this guy's DM now he's got a route. So his position is decreased, your position is increased, if that's what you want to do, and just make sure you have that availability to you, even when you're getting knocked down. There's always something you could try and pull off, something odd, because at this point, Craig, like he said in his description, he's feeling kind of good about his position. He's making good headway, especially from turn 1, when he was pretty down in the dumpsters. You know, at this point, I would feel ecstatic. Say, hey, damn, I got 2 guns on turn 3. That's pretty cool, you know, especially since his beginning. So his endorphin levels are really high. He's just flying high in here. That's when you need to try something that's obscure, and because he's just going on auto. A lot of players will go on autopilot at this point and just say, okay, I'm back to plan A, and then start our advancements. Because now you, as a defender in this place, are on the back burner. You've got to try something that will keep him down as long as possible. And this move on back here DMs those units just like I DM'd those partisans in the first game. That he's not going to get fired on most of the time. Most of the time he's not going to get fired on. You know, because he's got targets over here. He's got a really good target of opportunity over here. That's a game winner. So is he going to fire over here? He might not. I mean, you still have 8 morale. Pretty decent. This might be a hindrance. That's probably not going to be. It might be a hindrance. But this guy's CX, so you've got a good chance of surviving any shots coming your way regardless. And then you also, you know, not a great opportunity, but 2 3s are possible. You know, it's whatever. But yeah, just even when things look bad, again, in my case, refocus on the victory conditions. In Craig's case, you know, keep your head about you and keep pushing forward. And you know, sometimes the battle tides will turn, and they did in this case, which helped him bring him back in the game, which made probably made a much better game with his opponent. You know, it was probably really exciting, you know, seeing someone to be able to come back like that, and that kind of reinvigorates the old squad leader days that he probably remembered in his youth. That all those great fights that you have in squad leader, if you just kind of stick in there and knock down, drag out fights. So, but that's the primary lesson that I wanted to bring on here, simply because, you know, I met with Craig yesterday, the day before. We were just kind of discussing our games, and well, his game primarily, and that kind of reflected on my games. Like, hey, you know, I had the same sort of thing where I thought I was just kind of down from the get-go. From turn 1, I felt I was down when that 9-2 popped out of nowhere, and you know, it just really put a damper on it because I knew I had to cross open ground. I wasn't really looking forward to that, but and I got distracted, and I revisited the victory conditions and actually understood them a little bit better, and that allowed me to refocus my efforts on changing my plans a little bit. So, and that happens a lot. I mean, more than you would think, and that happens to all players. You know, it happens to all players. You know, a lot of guys will play this just for fun, and it might happen to them a little bit more often because they're just kind of kicking, throwing counters, rolling dice, eating pretzels, you know, drinking some beer, whatever. And so a lot of times at the end of the game, you'll say, wait a minute, I needed those guys for victory conditions, or I need to go off the east edge instead of the west edge. You know, a lot of that happens. And I remember a number of squad leader games where I actually had the boards flipped the wrong way. And, you know, halfway through the game, say, oh, wait a minute, board 3 is supposed to be turned the other way. Well, we didn't give a shit. You just keep playing, you know. And so you'll be making mistakes like that. You'll forget what the victory conditions are, you know. And and you'll lose focus again, like my poker anecdote, where unless you're in your prime mental state to play and really focus on the game. For me, squad leader is just a game of focus and chess. You know, if you're 100% focused on the game, you might not see opportunities where they are clear to others that are focused on the game. You know, and try certain things that you normally wouldn't try. Like Craig had that great strategy, right? Make him swivel his guns. You know, I got my ass kicked. Well, the only thing I can do for defense is make that gun turn every single time he fires. Which, in essence, you know, if he makes it turn 2 times or even 1 time, it's like he's entering a woods building. You know, he's got to turn, it's +1. You know, you got to turn 2, it's +2. You got to turn 3, +3. You just enter a stone building, even though there aren't any. You know, aren't any around here, but he's spun 3 times around. You know, keep those little things in mind, and you can use the system as it is. You know, now if he's, you know, a gun like this, if he's already pointing this way, and then you just charge guys at him, well, you know what's going to happen there. Yeah, it's just going to be bad. It's just going to be bad. So, again, I think this is a very good example, and it really spurred a decent discussion of just falling back to mental stalwartness. And again, since the ladder's kind of starting up, some of you guys are involved in that. Hopefully you're having a good time playing some of your players that you may or may not have played before. But just keep focused in your games. If you're feeling down, you know, take a break, go get a drink, go get a glass of water, something like that. Just get up, walk around a little bit, exercise, get the blood flowing, come back, revisit the game, you know, look at it, and maybe you'll see something you hadn't seen before. You know, that way that'll give you 2 or 3 minutes to forget about that 9 - 2 that you just lost for, you know, from a 12 dice roll or something like that, you know, and then you'll come back and you'll spot something else, which will help you overcome those times where, you know, you lose those big ticket items. And then once you start winning those games or having good success, that you almost come back and win those games. Like, hell, you know, that 9 - 2 didn't do anything. You know, I have like, I don't know why, because I misplay them most probably, is my -2 leaders, they don't give me shit. They just, for whatever reason, I don't use them quite well enough, and I just don't succeed in maximizing their effectiveness. That's one of my shortcomings. So, but you know, I'm typically playing like the Russians against the Germans, so the Russians don't really have too many -2 leaders in their games. But I'm happy with that. So, because if you don't have the good stuff, you've got nothing to lose. The only thing you have is just the normal rigmarole of guys, and you got to get done with what you got to get done. So that's where my focus kind of comes through. So when I do get like pieces of candy like that or pretty trophies like that, you know, I use them. If they work, they work. If not, you know, whatever. You know, I usually don't have them anyway. That's my philosophy, is I just never get around to it. So, but yeah, I don't know. Has anybody else kind of like recently had a situation like this where you're just down in the dumpster and you got refocused back on it? And what did you do to do that? You know, did you take a break? Was it the next session you guys played or something like that? Anybody have a recent game that was sort of like that? No?
Well, I certainly just did over the weekend as well.
Oh, what'd you have, Mark?
I had we were playing Welcome Back, and first half of the game was not going terribly well. I was the defending Americans, and Ben was the attacking Germans, as he always is, or at least he's as Germans as he always is. And he busted right up between the forest and the village. Just busted right through with his main force. Just couldn't stop him. The couple squads that were there just couldn't stop him. And so by the end of turn 2, it looked like it was almost basically at the at that final road that you have to cross to get in that little cluster of buildings. And I literally had I think one squad in position to block him. Plus, fortunately, the one thing that he had, since he was so heavy, since he was shrimp hunting so heavily on that side, was the 10-2 leader got the 50 cal into that nice little building in U2.
Wow.
So, yeah, so that was that. So we at that point we broke for the evening. It didn't look good. But as you said, you still the idea of, well, hey, look, you just keep playing, and you see what happens. And the 50 cal went on the raid tear, and that was it. Pretty much kind of broke it up and gave me just enough time to get the kind of reinforcements in place. And then there was another lucky, it was more luck on my part, but the paratrooper squad with the flamethrower was broken, but with an 8-0 leader. So he was in he had a little crawl into open ground. It was the only place he had to go. So turned around next rally phase, got exactly what he needed to rally, and just turned on the flamethrower, on the squads that were chasing him, and that pretty much, So yeah, in the end it was kind of more luck, but it was still the idea of just not, not giving up, just kind of what you have. And just getting the remainder of the forces in place, so they were able to just kind of, break them up and just leave them bottled up there in that area, and he just couldn't get across the road. So, so as I said, that's kind of my story. And again, that seemed to be this weekend. So it seemed to be a common theme, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, you gave yourself the opportunity to get that HMG or to go in. It's. And so,
yep.
Even a medium, it was really funny. Matter of fact, in that game that I had, I have a bunch of LMGs, and I swear to God, every single LMG that I fired got rate of fire. So every single time I fired an LMG, whether it's a fire group or by itself, I always got like 2 shots with it. And sometimes the second shot made a difference, sometimes it didn't. But every single time, it gets rate of fire, and that's a good feeling. When you get another shot, you get another shot, you get another shot, another chance to break somebody. And that definitely adds to your to the excitement level, and to B, your mental state. It's like, okay, I got 4 shots with my HMG, broke 3 squads. That's pretty cool. And so now, give yourself an opportunity to overcome some of the hurdles that you had early in the game. Yeah, a very good deal. Very good deal.
I got a quick 88 to Zahn story.
All right.
I was playing Eric Zag this weekend, and I was attacking, and I went to the left side, and it was about turn 3, and I barely even had a middle building at this point. So I was like, oh, academic exercise, we'll keep playing. and then turn 5, I got Snake Eyes on one of his 88s, killed the crew. And then I got the other crew also, and then at the very end, I managed to run 2 leaders and a squad off the board, and wow. I just totally lucked out. It's all that happened.
Wow. Yeah, I think I watched the first half of that game, and it looked pretty bad.
It was bad.
It looked pretty bad. It looked like turn 1 Craig's game, just looked really bad. But yeah, that's cool. That is cool to be able to come back from that. And 88s are nothing. When you got to get in front of a 88 to take it out, that's going to blow some stuff up. That's going to blow some stuff up. 16 even is not funny, or even +3 for that matter. You're taking one morale checks most of the time. So, God dang, yeah, it's pretty close. And I think that's why a lot of us play this game. Is it's kind of fun, a lot of detail in it. You're at the lower levels, but also that little small things like that, a Snake Eyes, 1 dice roll here or there, 1 rally here or there, can really make a game much more exciting. At least for your, you may not make you the win, but it may bring you back a little bit where you can be a competitor in that particular game instead of just being steamrolled. And so that's always a good thing. It's always fun to be in the game, and that's kind of like the lesson is. You're pretty much always in the game, even if most of your units are broken, because it all depends on the victory conditions. That's why it's just really key. Sometimes your victory conditions doesn't care about how many units you have. I think in the replay or the analysis that we had of this particular scenario with Craig, even if you had all the allies in the middle of the grain field and they're all broken, as long as they can either scoot back or keep the Germans from getting close to these AA guns, they're going to win. I mean, they don't honestly need any good order units in the game, as long as they put up a body wall effectively to slow the Germans down. And broken units also have a purpose in that case. So sometimes it doesn't say you need 5 good order units, to win the game. You just need to fulfill the victory conditions any which way you can do that. No, it's really funny. Can you move the AA guns in that scenario? Is there a scenario special rule that says you can't move them? I'm kind of curious because
well, the 88s are not quick setups. You can't in SK. You cannot move guns unless they are QSW.
The QSWs, okay,
Right.
Yeah.
Because I was wondering if they were, then you could just, like, especially if the Germans come from one side, just take one gun and just put 2 or 3 squads with it and just push it away, just throw it in a corner somewhere, even just to keep it away from them. Yeah, you never know. I mean, you can do tricky things like that, and so it's kind of weird in that aspect. So, but they had a couple special rules in my game that I won't bother going over, but all these little quirky rules sometimes can pop up to make it much more exciting. It's like, oh wait, I can do that. Like the green units, right? The green units, if they're stacked with a leader, aren't subject to inexperience penalties. So make sure those guys. Make sure you definitely have a guys at least stacked with the green units to keep you from cowering as poorly as those units do. So little things like that can really go a long way, and that sometimes carry into victory. But yeah, mental status, mental state, it's just a game, and usually they're pretty quick, especially the starter kit ones, pretty quick games, and a lot of times you can just play it right on back by turn 2 or 3. You've probably gone a couple hours. You probably have another 2 hours in your session or so, depending on how long your sessions go. And if you're one to quit that often, then just know it's a game and just keep going, or sometimes just play it back. I did that one time with a pair drop scenario. Like one of my pair drops, my guys landed off board by a number of hexes, and so it would take them far too long to come back on, and then the Germans could just set up off the board waiting for me to come on and just shoot me. So it's like, we'll just redo the pair drop and go again. And so the pair drop came a little bit better, and then we just continue from there. So sometimes if it's a real complete screw up, then you could just reset pretty quickly for the most part. So depending on the scenario. But does anyone have any questions about just the general ASK happenings going on lately, or how many ladder games you guys have done? I've seen a couple guys post some ladder games, things like that. So that's pretty cool.
I just have a request.
Okay.
So in this one, basically the Bofors can fire IFE as well as 2 hits. I've had a couple of opponents that wanted to fire in a certain way. How do you explain to people what the benefit of each is? In a kind and not dictatorial way, I guess.
Well, you go. One example came up is that you just equate, say, well, what are you trying to do?
Okay.
Because sometimes especially like if it's and there are some guns like this, like the 40L. Like Germans have a lot of guns. They're like either 6 firepower or 4 firepower and 8 fire. The Germans are all over the place with their IFE equivalency.
Yes.
So you just ask your opponent. It's like, okay, what do you anticipate? Now, obviously, if you can't break down the math, you just say, okay, let's assume you're just gonna get one shot. Just always assume that you're just gonna get one shot off. I don't care what rate of fire you have. So it's like, okay, if you fire on the to hit chart on this, what is your AP equivalency to that? And for the 40 millimeter, that's going to be a 2 firepower.
2.
So so it's like, okay, that's fine. You can fire 2 firepower, and you'll have to roll to hit. And if you actually hit, because let's say infantry in woods, he'll need, with no covered arc change, he'll need a 7. Well, that's point blank. Let's say he's not point blank. Let's say he is point blank. I don't care. Say he needs an 8 to hit. So keep that in mind that you first need to roll an 8 to hit. All right? So you have to roll an 8, and then you've got to roll on the 2 chart, which would be a 5 or less to get a result. So you've got to roll 8 first, qualifier, and then a 5. Now, what would you need to affect that unit if you rolled directly on the 8, even if you reduced your rate of fire by 1? So an 8 chart, if you roll an 8, you automatically get the normal morale check, right? And in the first scenario, you have to roll twice, an 8 and a 5, to get a morale check. In this case, if you just roll an 8, actually 8 will be a pin task check because it'll be +1. If you roll 7, it'll get a morale check. And then you also have a slightly reduced opportunity to get rate of fire, and then you could do it again. And so just mathematically speaking, the effect of the IFE is better in this case because the rate of fire still maintains 2 of you possibly getting a roll on that, simply because of the initial shot. Now, if you count on trying to track the unit, and in terms of possible critical hits, we're just still gonna have to roll low anyway. I mean, you could say, okay, I've got rate of fire 3, first one misses, and let's say I acquire it, which makes it a little easier to hit, and then which makes the crit probably still a 3 or a 4, depending. And then again, 3 or 4 is pretty low. You can't really count on that. Crits just kind of happen. But again, if you double the crit, it'll be double the 2, which will go to a 4. 4 minus 1, because you're going to reverse it, is going to be a 7 for a more normal morale check, which is exactly the same thing you would get if you just fired the 8 on the 8 infantry firepower equivalent.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can do that. The 3 rate of fire is fun to have. And again, you have to take into consideration his morale factor, right? If he had 6 morale, yeah, I mean, maybe try to get that extra shot to fire at more units, especially like in the open ground or something like that. They're going to be easier to hit. You'll get a slightly higher rate of fire. The effectiveness isn't going to be there, but sometimes you don't need it to be that high. But it's 8 morale units. Anything less than a 6 chart is going to be much less effective than versus the other units of lower morale. So, or you could just roll it out. Yeah. So it's preference, and that's all you can do. Just say, hey, I would take it because of this. Just like I explained, say, hey, all I need to do is roll 1 die one time, and if I roll an 8, I'll get at least a pin task shock. If I roll 7, which is close to an 8, I'll get the same morale check I would, but it's 1 less dice roll. And so, and that should be enough right there. So it's much easier to get that to be there. And your rate of fire is not going to be reduced to that great of extent. I mean, if the guy insists on rolling the rate of fire, so okay, that's fine. I mean, that's your decision. It's not a big deal. And then what you could do then is go through that scenario. So say he goes on a rate of fire tear, 3 or 4 shots, right? Breaks maybe 1 unit, pins maybe another one. So okay, let's reverse that. Let's see what happens if you just fired IFE and go through, a scenario or something like that. Just show them right then and there. Just say, okay, let's see what happens. Let's see what that result would have been using the same dice rolls if you fired on the IFE. And a lot of times they may say, oh, because you can't say, well, I could have rolled something else. Let's use exactly the same dice rolls and see how that affects, because that might bring it to light. And some guys it's hard to explain certain things to, and just show them. Say, hey, what'd you roll? You rolled a 3 to hit, and you rolled a 5 for a result. That's cool. What was that result? No morale check, and then you rolled again for rate of fire. You missed rate of fire. You missed him. But if you just rolled a 5 to hit on the first time, on the 8, that would have been 1 morale check, which would have been slightly better effect. Just use this exact same dice rolls. You can't change the dice rolls, because they'll always argue, well, I could have gone on a rate of fire terror 500. Use exactly the same dice rolls and compare the results. And in a lot of guns, it would let's say this gun was probably like a 37 millimeter, or on the 4, let's say that instead of 8 equivalency, that was a 4 firepower equivalency, right?
Okay.
In that case, since you kind of need to roll a 6 result anyway, it's easier to hit him because you need an 8. Right? So you're going to hit him more often, and you're going to have rate slightly more often, just a little bit, but you're only losing one column, and so, but you're not getting the positive modifier. So if the firepower equivalency is closer to the AP equivalency, then I would probably take the rate of fire on the 3, especially if it's a 3, and try to do AP equivalency, because you could always try to go for critical hits on that. You know, so, and that only if it's lower, but a lot of times, you know, there's some German AA guns that have 12 firepower and they're 20 LLs. There's no way you want to roll to hit on that because you're just firing straight at the 12 chart. You're never going to get equivalent firepower if you're firing to hit on that. I don't care what rate of fire you have. It's just you're just looking at the odds there. Yeah. So does that answer your question? I mean, long story short.
Yeah, I just have a lot of, well, not a lot, but in at least 2 or 3 cases, they've sort of owned up on the artillery rules and really want to figure the 2 hits and everything. And I try and kindly explain to them that, well, in this case, you have a better option.
Yeah.
It's just, they sort of focus on the whole, well, these are the artillery scenarios. I need to learn how to run guns using 2 hits, and
in that case it just fine.
Yeah.
And that, what you could do is if he's a buddy of yours and he's kind of getting into it, he's learning it, run the game and say, okay, do nothing but the hits, and then do the same game and then say do nothing but IFEs.
These, which is usually what it winds up, and then they learn. But it's, I just wondered if there was some approach that I hadn't considered that would help them make a better tactical decision in this case, because it's a pretty clear cut with these guns, which is going to probably do you the most good.
Right. But you don't want to, you kind of don't want to see your opponent use a less effective attack, but especially if that less effective attack doesn't give him anything else, right? Again, the only thing that the less effective attack here gives him is the potential for a crit and giving the -1. Can that overcome the disadvantage of doing that? Sometimes it can. Most of the time it won't. But again, a lot of times, moving a guy in a stack, or moving a leader or a primary target so he gets shot at by -2, or stacking a unit and moving them all together so your opponent fires on them. Is that effective? Not really, not in and of itself. But if that causes something else to have a higher chance of success, then that's part of the equation. But as a whole, that activity by itself, if it affects nothing else in the game, it's like, well, I don't want to roll. That's like D&D, a D&D equivalent. I don't want to roll a D20 in damage. I'd rather roll a D4 in damage. It's like, that's fine, but you're losing out on straight up damage. You're just losing out, and there's nothing else that's going to give you any more damage to make up for it. So there's no point in doing the D4 over the D20. And that's sort of the case in kind of what you were describing there. But again, if it gives him something else, if it definitely gives him something else that gives him a better chance of success, regardless of what that might be, in whatever his plan is. And that's why I always try and focus on, well, if your plan is to do this, and if you taking the rate of fire, keeping your higher rate of fire allows you to do that better, by all means do it, because that's exactly what you want to do. If that's what you think that would get you that plan to do it that way, then by all means do it that way. But it's sort of like stacking your best leader with your 9-2 leader with your HMG and your medium machine gun and your 2 4.68, stuff like that. That's so much damn firepower. I mean, in my philosophy is, you don't need the -2 leader. The 20 firepower that it's going to give you essentially is a -2 leader by itself. I mean, it's going to rip through any terrain. So get the -2 leader on the 12 shots, and now you essentially have equivalent 220 shots instead of one big shot that if you roll a 10 and nothing gets rate of fire, you got nothing out of it that turn. And that's my philosophy, but that's the way I play. You know, whether it's successful all the time. Again, I don't use my -2 leaders that effectively, and my machine guns don't stick around. So that's just icing on the cake for me. I try to win the game with other shit, and if I get a good firepower shot on those and it breaks somebody, that's part of the. That's hopefully that will help me get what I want to get. But it's not going to be, you know, oh, if that doesn't break, then my whole attack falls short. I don't want that to happen in my attack because I know I get shit dice sometimes. You know, and we all do. Let's admit that.
Yeah.
So, and that's again a part of the strategy. But again, I say, play a short scenario. This is a perfect scenario, a perfect example of your buddy wanting to do this. Okay, do it. Let's see what happens. You know, and all you have to do is just set up. You know, say, okay, set up all 3 of your guns on the wheat field, and I'll cross the open ground, and you fire AP. You fire the AP equivalency at me, and let's see how far I can get. And then you do the exact same thing when he's firing IFE on you when you're moving the open ground, and see where I can get.
Yeah.
And he'll look really quick. He'll find within like 5-10 minutes about, oh yeah, IFE's gonna shred. And then you can pick out the other guns with 4 firepower equivalency. You know, and then do that with just slightly different guns. There's like a sweet spot in there, and so that could be useful. But 8 firepower is pretty damn good.
Oh yeah.
It's pretty, even 8+3s. 8+3s like the base chart. 8+3 is about as far as I want to go, but it's pretty good. You're not going to get +3 very often in this particular game here, but yeah, it won't take too long. And then he'll say, "Oh yeah, it's cool," but don't tell him like he's doing it wrong all the time. Say, you know, it could be useful in this case, but in this scenario, that provision doesn't apply. But in a different scenario, it could apply. You know, especially like if it's a city scenario.
Yeah, that was going to be kind of my exact point.
City scenario, fire to hit, you get acquisition. Now I need like a 6 or 7 to hit the building. Now it's a 2 even. It's like, hell yeah. You know, versus a 6+3, a 2 even's better. You know, it's just better.
If somebody's going to be staging attack.
Yeah, and you get to keep the rate of fire, and then you have the slight. And guess what? If you should, the 2 even's going to be better on city fights. And if you know, you're not going to get the crit that often, but that one time you do get the crit, most of the time it's going to hurt because it could be like a -3 on 1 unit. So
yeah, 4 -3 or something like that. Yeah, 4 -3, that'll hurt.
That's going to kick the shit out of somebody. You know, hopefully you won't roll your 10 at that point. You roll your 3 on him and then make it a 0. And then but yeah, definitely in city fights it changes, and then you can actually show the exact same example with your buddy doing that. Show different points of view. So yeah, here's open ground. Here's what we do in open ground. Here's what we do in cities. And you can compare the differences between them. In the cities, these 40 millimeters, you know, it might be, you know, obviously the lower caliber weapons are much better to keep the rate of fire, like the 4 firepower ones, than the 8s. The 8s, it's probably even. You know, half a dozen of one, 6 of the other. You know, that sort of thing. You know, it might.
Got a quick question.
Absolutely.
You keep saying AP through this episode, and so you're shooting armored piercing at the infantry. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, it's like AP. Well,
is the 40? Is the 40
yeah,
long
you can
just
fire HE.
AP?
Yeah, you can fire HE at that, but the 40 is going to make a 4 chart. So the 4 chart is almost the same sort of thing.
Right.
So you have a slightly higher rate of fire if you fire the 40, which is on the 4 chart. So, but that's going to be essentially a +2 you're adding to that gun.
Well, you've got a rate of fire of 3 no matter what you shoot, correct?
Right, but you'll have to add the hit. If he's closer, you're going to hit him a little more often. But you'll need to roll a 6 or less on that shot, which is not too bad. But at 8, you need to roll a 7 all the time. You know, a 7 all the time. Yeah. Well, no, 7 for result. If you fire the infantry firepower equivalent, you roll a 7, you're 1 and done. And that's a normal morale check. You know.
Okay.
If he's moving like moving, no, it's the regular normal morale check because an 8 on the 8's a morale check. So if you roll 7s, which are average, You do morale checks.
one.
Whereas the other one, you have to roll. You know, if he's 3 hexes, if he's not point blank, you know, if he's 3 hexes away, you'll need to roll a 7 to hit because of the +1 terrain in this particular example. And then you've got to roll a 6. So you've got to roll 2 dice that have a lower value than your initial 8 infantry firepower equivalent. With
Okay, so
TEM.
I'm still here on the basic rules. So you're saying if you shoot HE, you do not need to get a hit first.
No.
Shoot.
No. You've got infantry firepower equivalent, which is the parentheses. On these guns
The
here,
8.
it's the 8.
Okay.
So you can fire directly on the IFT with 8. Just fire 8.
Okay.
And if you do that, your rate of fire is reduced by 1.
Oh, okay.
So the 3 becomes a 2. So when you roll, you know, whatever, you have to roll a 1 or 2 to maintain rate of fire. Now, if you roll HE in this case, some AA guns only have AP, but or HE for that matter. If you roll HE in this case, the 40 is equivalent to a 4 chart, but you have to roll to hit. And then you've got to roll.
Okay.
Then you've got to roll the effect. So, and both the hit and the effect over 2 hexes away are going to be lower dice rolls than you need initially from the initial attack. You know, especially if he's moving in the open, right? If this thing is moving in the open, that's 8 minus 2, right? You need a 10 for result. If you're firing on the hit chart, right? And if it's not point blank range, you need like a 10 to hit. So what? You know, then you just roll in the 4 chart. Now it's going to be a 6 or less, 6 or less for a morale check. So depending on what terrain he's in, makes a difference on whether you want to try to hit or otherwise. A lot of times guys will fire area target type with their tanks because their tank calibers are so big, you know, like an 88 millimeter gun. They'll fire area target type at a unit in a stone building because when you fire area target type, the terrain effect modifier doesn't apply to hit. It only applies to the IFT. So he can hit with a 7, you know, if he's not buttoned up. If he's unbuttoned, he can hit with a 7. And then he's firing on this, you know, half of the 16, which is an 8 plus 3, which is pretty good because hitting infantry in a building, if he's buttoned up, he needs a 4. I mean, and you got to fire 2 or 3 times before you get an acquisition on him, and then he just walks away, and you just wasted.
I'm under the impression that people use area fire more than not.
It depends. Depends on your players. It depends on the players. You know, some people like that 16 chart. I want to hit you with 16 even, period. You know?
But they'll suffer the +3 to try and hit you.
Well, if they're firing on the infantry target type, the +3 is limited to hit. Once they hit, which is unlikely, it's going to be 16 clean. It's going to be 16 straight up. So whatever they roll is on the 16 chart. And so they could do a little bit more damage, but they're going to be hitting much less often, you know. Because most tanks don't have a really good rate of fire.
Another advantage with firing on the IFE vice area target type, if you use area target type, you give up all your rate of fire.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Your rate of fire is gone. Unless it's a mortar, of course. Unless it's a mortar.
Right.
Yeah.
And the mortar's just... You know,
so, Stu, correct me if I'm wrong. When I think of using the IFE on these guns, say in the Beauforts, I basically then am in terms of rule management, treat them as a machine gun.
Yep. For essentially.
So in terms of first fire, subsequent fire, defensive fire, you know, you have to be adjacent. You can't fire at a unit that's further away than a closer enemy unit. All of those rules apply if you're using the IFE.
Right, and that's where, Dave, then your buddy can switch to hit, because then if you fire it as ordnance, it doesn't apply. If he first fires, he can intensive fire. He can intensive fire that gun, which could be +2 to hit, but he could fire at a further target. So that could be a possibility right then and there. It's like when you have
if you IFE on your first shot, you can't then switch to using the gun on, say, an intensive fire, right? I mean, once you fire it like a machine gun, then that's it for that movement phase.
Well, you're marked with the counter, right? You see the first fire or prep fire, right?
Yeah.
Right. Well, the prep fire if you prep fire, then
Well, it's in the.
yeah, then you can. I don't know if there's a restriction on that because
As far as I know, there isn't. So,
Yeah. because you have to have memory on that.
Yeah, so you can IFE, your shot, okay, as you said, you'll be marked. Let's say you don't keep rate, so you're marked with the first fire counter. You can then still intensive fire or sustain fire, depending on the situation. So you could just switch to. So you could say, during the prep fire phase, you can. Well, that's less likely because once you mark the prep fire counter, you're marked the prep fire counter. That's it. You're done.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm thinking more in the terms of defensive first fire. You get a first fire count in there. You use it IFE, and then he's got some unit moving, in the distance, and you want to attack him. Like, okay, well, I'm gonna.
Absolutely, you can switch. You can then switch to intensive fire.
Right.
And then take that one last shot at long range. Yeah.
Right.
The effect will be less, right? But it gives you that ability to reach out and touch someone, and it's better than nothing. And that's one example,
Right.
Dave, that you would say, yes, this is a perfect example of using the to hit versus the IFE.
Okay.
So that would be a good example, and that way your buddy kind of quote wins part of that argument. So yeah, it's good, and you could do it in this case, and that's actually benefits you. Whereas if I just stuck with IFE, I'd be screwed. And,
Is the Boffer the same as a machine gun at the range of 16? Afterwards, it needs a leader.
not in starter kit.
Okay.
Not in starter kit, and for all intents and purposes, the Bofors in starter kit is exactly like a machine gun. But in ASL, it's slightly differently because it doesn't have the fire link capabilities. So, but in starter kit, it's pretty much just like Craig said, it's just a machine gun. Just a machine gun, and that's just
With
another.
a fairly low breakdown number because of the 2.
Yeah.
Which is why he kept saying, well, we should have done stuff with the breakdowns, but forgot about it.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the things that's easy to forget.
Oh yeah, it's real easy to forget, especially in the heat of battle. It's real easy to forget. It's real easy to forget. And again, that's another valuable lesson in terms of, okay, yeah, he rolled snake eyes on me. Okay, I'm going to get vaporized, but can I get something out of it? And the answer is, yeah, your ass coward, you're final fired now. And now I get to run around you. You killed one guy, now everybody else gets to surround you and kill you. So, always look at that. Look at the brighter side. And always look for those doubles because, those are the exciting shots. The 4s, the 2s, where he just vaporizes units with a -2 or -1. Well, usually -2. And then everyone forgets about, oh shit, I lost my leader, lost 2 squads, whatever. And you think, wait, oh, he cowered. He he's done. He's final fired. Because a lot of guys just grab the counters, put the first fire on him. It's like, nah, you can flip that bad boy over. That's a lot worse, in terms of, especially in games of mobility, if they're final fired, that's exactly what you want. And then what you do is, if this were a case like over here, on the right hand side, if he's final fired, at that point you might want to move units adjacent to him, right? Because guess what? Now you have to give him the choice of, are you going to fire? Because as soon as you roll the dice, it's going to be the same morale check on you. Think of that case is, anytime a guy's final fired, I love moving guys next to him because it makes him make a decision and it puts a lot of pressure on him, which makes him feel uneasy. When you're putting pressure on him, he has to make a decision, especially when you got 8 morale units. So let's say he goes mono here. That's going to be a 6 -2, right? Is that a great shot for him? Yeah, it's a damn good shot. For him to get a result, he has to roll a 9. If he rolls a 9, he breaks, and I take a morale check. If he rolls a 7, he pins, and I take a 1 morale check, which means I need to roll a 7. So we're on equal grounds here. When you fire, whatever you fire is what I need to take a morale check. Now, if I was a 7 morale unit, maybe not. Maybe not. 6 morale unit, maybe not. It's much even lower. Because he could roll a 7 for an effect, and I'd have to roll a 5 likely to have an effect. So at that point, the dice kind of favor him. The dice are in his favor. But he has to chance What I like is I get a free morale check without even attacking him. I just walk next to him and he takes a morale check. Essentially is what that kind of does. And if he's taking morale checks, rolling dice, it's just like, you know, like it's just like I fired on him, but guess what? I get to move for free. And you're taking morale checks. So that's what I think about when anytime I see a final fire marker, I think, okay, can I put pressure on him to make him take a morale check? Maybe a half squad, you know, maybe a school, maybe you got an extra unit or something, just some sort of bullshit. Anything to make those units possibly break or something like that. Because again, it's a free morale check. If we were to fire on that bill, what's he in anyway? What's he in? He's in a stone building. If we take these units, move them adjacent, and advance fire, if we assault move there and advance fire, whatever like that, what's our firepower? 10? 8 plus 3? We need a 5 for a morale check. If we just move next to him in the open, giving him a -2 shot, we need a 7 for a morale check. You know, he's rolling dice. And if he rolls an 8, then he's broken. Pin, and 7's a pin. And if we survive that, then we jump into close combat. He's pinned. We might even ambush him and just vaporize the guy. So just look at the numbers. Just play with the numbers. You know, 6 minus 2 is not fun. What's going to happen? What's the worst going to happen? He might die. You know, if he rolls super low on the 6 chart, he'd have to roll a 4. You know, I mean, it's possible. But if he rolls an 8 or higher, he breaks. And if you break, guess what? You just rot back. So what? And he might have some other units to fire. So, but the advantage to gain what you have to gain can be sometimes much higher. And that's just pressure. Putting the pressure on the enemy in that sort of situation, especially with a +3 building. I mean, if he's in a open ground or an orchard or woods, yeah, just advance fire on him. Be safer. Advance fire on him. If he's in a stone building, final fire, move next to him. You know, it's actually kind of odd that it works out that way, and he's more likely to break than to get a result on you. If you have 8 morale, you know, obviously. So, use his morale against him. And you could also remind him, if you don't want him to fire, remind him that he has to take a morale check. If you want him to fire and break, then don't remind him. You know, you know, whatever you want to do in your game. So, but say, oh yeah, by the way, you know, if you roll, you know, it's a morale check, you know, and some guys might balk at the situation. Plus, it makes him think even more. Oh shit, I hadn't thought about that. And then he's got to think and maybe make a mistake when his thought process is, and so on and so forth. And but yeah, but as long as you're comfortable in your decision to jump out in the open, take a -2, that's part of the game plan. Again, as long as you have something to gain from it. If you got nothing to gain from it, don't do it. Why are you doing it? Why are you doing it? You give him a free shot. Why are you doing it? You shouldn't be, unless you have something to gain from it that you could take advantage of. You know, if he's got a 10 -3 leader back here that's just going to rally them all, you know, he's final perk to firing all day because he's going to get rallied next rally phase. You know, can you get a 6+1 leader or an 8-0 leader around the flank back here so he can't route back to him? If you could do that, guess what? Then he can't rally his unit. Now you just nullified his 10 -3 leader that's going to rally those units. They have to route somewhere else. Definitely use them like that. So very, very, very key. Again, all depends on what you want to get done. All depends on what advantage you can gain out of losing troops or getting troops broken. Just look at the advantages. It's just like same sort of concept when you're moving your units, right? I've been seeing a lot of rock questions on the forums lately. A lot of where can I go? Where can I go? Where can I go? Well, you know, if you knew where you could go before you moved, then sometimes you might want to select a different position. Say, oh, that guy's FTR. Oh shit, you know, I didn't want to FTR. I didn't want to lose a game. You know, sometimes.
Got a route question.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna move some stuff around, turn the board since it doesn't matter, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's say these gentlemen are in W5, and we got a leader here, and these guys over here, and not other units around. So this one needs to route. So So it will go back to here, let's say. Now I can see this one, which means I know I moved closer to it, but I'm in the woods. So do I have to run away from this one now?
Are you adjacent to it? Are you
No.
forced? Are you forced to route from that location?
No.
No, you're stuck there.
Okay.
Well,
All right, that's good.
Technically, you could go to V4. I mean,
Right, sure.
because you reach your destination and then you can continue, and that's not an illegal route.
Right.
And that's another thing, is you want to make sure that that doesn't happen. You know, you want to make
Right.
you want to get, like, if there's a difference between V4 and W4 in terms of destination, then you'd want to do that. In certain cases, you could pick like let's say let's say this were the case. Okay. Let's say this were the case. Where are you going to route to? Let's say the German front line.
Well,
Let's say the German front line. Well, the line is right there, and let's say you got a leader. Let's say you got a leader here, or a leader here, and that's your situation. Where are you going to route to? What's your destination?
I guess there'll be lots of different things to worry about, but I guess I would just go to V4.
V4. And then what happens?
Then I sit there.
Next turn, what happens?
Well, he's going to move next to me.
Right, and then you die, right?
Yeah.
Okay. How about this? Anybody else have a different route path for that guy? Any route destination for that guy? Anybody else? He's dead if he goes to V4, right? He's dead if he goes to V4.
You could low crawl to V5.
Nope.
But then he can still get around you.
You can't go low crawl to V5. You're not moving towards your route destination.
Oh, okay. Right.
Now, if his destination was U5, then he could low crawl here or here. Yeah, assuming those weren't trees and bushes and the whole 9 yards. If those, like, whatever. Anybody have any thoughts on where this guy can route?
So quick question.
Yeah.
If V4 is a route destination, why is V5 not permissible? Because it's not taking him any further from V4.
No. A low crawl to V5 is not permissible.
Well, so why is that?
Because a low crawl, you have to go towards your destination. If you're 1 hex away from your destination and you move and you're 1 hex away, did you go towards anything?
Right, because
okay,
you
so
have to pick a woods or a building to go to.
Right.
So, but when you route, I thought that you could take a circuitous route to the destination.
Right.
As long as you don't increase the distance, you're okay. So are we saying low crawl is special in that it always not increase is not enough of a condition, it actually has to be decrease?
Right, because if you're standing 5 feet from me and I say move towards me, Arshish, and you step to the side, did you move towards me?
No.
Okay, that's the exact same situation here. And this comes up a lot. A lot of guys will want to low crawl here. Can't do it. You're not going towards your destination.
Okay.
Not going towards it. But we didn't exclude a V5. We excluded V5 as a low crawl destination. Arshish hit it on the head. Route to V5 because you don't have to take the shortest route to get there, right? Our destination is V4. Let me get a low. Where is it? Corpses, fort. Where is it? This is our route destination, right? I don't know where the other overlay is. There's a cool overlay I could put there. Let me find it because I don't want to be too lazy. Oh, where is it? Hex grid. Oh, map annotation. There you go. Yeah, VC. No, and perimeter. There you go. Let's change the color. All right. Delete that. Label. I didn't spell it correctly. Sue me. That's our route destination, correct? That's the destination we're selecting, right? We could select W4 just as easily. Right? If we go to W4, we go there and we end. Correct? All right, we're done. It's not connected to any other woods. Well, we could continue to V4 because we've reached our destination and there's a woods connected to it, and then we could end up in V4. So that's what we have to do. And the same thing with V4. If we go to V4, we could see these guys, then we could go to W4 by the same token.
But you don't have to.
But you don't have to. You have that option. But what happens, because you don't have to go directly to it, if we go to V5, because this is 1.5, technically we can go, we can go 1.5 because we're increasing distance from this guy. And then if we go to V4, we're not getting closer to the Sergeant Schultz. So we can go to V5 on our way to V4. What happens when we go to V5?
You're getting closer to this one now if you move to V4.
So where can you go then?
Well, now by moving to V5, now you can see the enemy unit in T2, so V4 is no longer legal.
Right. Now this is taken off the table. Now where can he route? Now you select your destination from here.
And I can go, well, there's
P7. No.
There's nothing you can, well, I take that back. I guess it would be X. Can you get to X8?
Within 6 MF, right?
Well, you've already expended 1.5.
Right. So
What's wrong with X7?
Well, you can ignore X7 if you want. You could go to X7, but you could ignore it.
well, that's still further from this guy, yeah. Yeah, it's 2 from him because that's from where. That's a 2 and 3. Yeah, because he can't set this one initially. I don't think that he can route. I don't think that. Say it's 2.
So X7 would take you a total of 6 movement factors to get there.
Right.
And you could ignore it because it's 2 hexes, still 2 hexes away. So therefore, now you don't have a target hex that's within 6 movement factors.
And so where could you go?
You can go there if you want to.
Oh, sure, the leader.
Because that's 6. So 99% of your players will go there and stop and die.
But I thought you had to go to a woods or a building as your destination.
You did.
And you did to V4.
Yeah, that's
But
our
you're just
destination.
but you're just going to keep moving because you're still, well, undercover, interdicted.
Well, whether we're interdicted or not is we have to. The first thing you got to do is select your destination, and that's what we have to do. So that's our destination. You don't have to get there using the shortest amount of MF. But if you take a circuitous route, you have to be able to get there. So we could theoretically go to V5 and then to V4 because those are legal paths that we could take, right? But knowing that this guy's line of sight to V5, we're using the route rules to our advantage. We're here. Oh, now there's a bad guy we hadn't seen before. Now we cannot go to V4. Now that is taken away from our destinations. Now we have to refigure from here.
Okay, you ready for part 2 of my question?
Part 2.
I will bring out one quick thing before we move on. The problem sometimes with a little more indirect route,
Yeah.
it's indirect. I somehow can never seem to pronounce the other one. is remember at no point can you move closer to a unit that you have seen before.
Big time.
So if you start kind of looping around and then you suddenly try to cut back, sometimes you're now moving closer because you've gotten 1 hex further away from them. And once you've gotten that 1 hex further away, you cannot get back.
Right.
So that can be a problem with more indirect routes. You've got to be very careful about that. So just to bring that up, because that did catch me a couple of times.
Right. Let's say the guy's over here, and let's say there's a LOS that does not exist from this location to here, right? So you can't say, okay, I'm going to go here, then I'm going to go here, and then see him, and then I go somewhere else. But no, your destination is still V4, and once you reach here, then you'd be coming back, and that would be an illegal route path because now you're going back to Sergeant Schultz. Just like Mark said, that's the example that if you're anticipating like some, I think that might have an LOS to U5, yeah, but he doesn't have an LOS to here. So you can say, well, I'm going to go 1, 3, 5, I'm going to go there, and that's all fine and dandy. And then you say, haha, this guy sees me, I'm going to go somewhere else. Nope, can't do it. Because the path itself, if this guy didn't exist, is illegal. Because you just went 3 away from him, now you get 2 away from him. So, again, like Mark said, you got to be careful with what you're trying to do. And your opponent's got to be savvy enough to understand that sort of portion as well. And that's to anybody you've seen. Let's say there's a German unit that was over here, right? A broken German unit over in AA1. You know, if you leave his direction here, in that case, right, this broken German unit in AA1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 6. Let's say he's over. It's a hard angle, but essentially you see him over here. You can't go and then kind of come back that direction. This would be a better example, I think, right there, because I think you increase range here, and well, I don't think you'll decrease range there. It's like a weird sweet spot in there where you actually move him back, but you have to take broken units into account as well, and even the guys way far away can screw up those route paths. Doesn't happen quite as often in starter kit because your boards, the maps are smaller, a little more concise, but it can happen, especially in weird wheat fields like this where it's only +5 hindrance. You know, a guy way over in W4 can affect a route path of guys in CC7. You know, he can't go this way because that's in line of sight. So
Okay, I have another question here. Sort of set it up the way it was.
all right.
Oh. Now let's say instead of in the woods, the leader with the DC is here. Now obviously, as the DM unit, I know it's here. I can see it in the starter kit. So I don't know, if for some reason, if I was stupid enough to go here, what would happen? Is that even legal to go?
Well, first of all, where's your destination? That's the first thing you do. Don't worry about the routing first.
Right.
Where do you have to route?
It would have to be one of these two.
Right. So go to one of them and then let's see what happens.
Now I see it.
Right. So now what do you have to do?
I have to pick a new destination, I guess.
Okay. Where would that destination be?
Well, the nearest would be here, I guess.
How far is that?
2, 3, 4, 6. But I've already moved 2.
So is that within your routing distance?
No.
So what is within your routing distance?
I guess out here in the field.
Yeah. Any other location that's not adjacent to that unit is the destination.
Okay.
You can choose X2, you can choose X1, you can choose Y2, anything. You probably want what you...
So then I could say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, that'd be 5. Yeah, absolutely. And remember, both units route independently. They don't stack together. They don't route together in case you screw up.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So in case you screw up and then, oh shit, failure to route, he's gone. Then this guy says, okay, I can't go that way. Then we'll have to try this way. Okay. You route them independently. You don't route everyone. They don't all die as a stack. They go independently. But sometimes people just kind of, for easy, it's that way. But sometimes it's tricky. Now, what happens if you go to V4?
We'd go to U5, I guess.
Right, that's the only place you can go to, and then you can just go wherever on that side. Okay. Now route.
Well, he's DM'd. I can still not go next to a DM'd unit, I believe. Well, it's not now it's a broken unit. I cannot go next to the broken unit.
Do you see him?
No, I can't see him now. Okay. So I would pick my W4 again.
Okay.
And then I would say, well, it's a broken unit. I still can't route next to a broken unit.
Are you required to route at this point?
I do not know.
Okay. Anybody have that answer?
No. You just can't. You cannot end your route phase adjacent to a good order enemy unit.
But this was broken.
No, an unbroken enemy unit.
Or unbroken.
Unbroken, because units in melee are not good order, but you can't stand it as enemy. So unbroken enemy unit. That unit is broken. Whether he's DM'd or not is irrelevant.
Oh, okay.
Now you can't move to W3. It doesn't give you the luxury of moving adjacent to him because now you're moving adjacent to an enemy unit. The rule says you can't move adjacent to a known enemy unit.
Known.
Yeah. Doesn't say unbroken.
But if you wanted to, you could, in this case, continue. If you don't want to stay you're not
Into the-
required to route, but you
into
could
the field.
route.
All right. I think you could route the field. Yep. That's a good question, though, Keith. Or Greg. That's a good question. Do you have to route when you're adjacent to an enemy? Not required to route. Not required to route. And you have DM. And you've reached your destination.
Because if you think of it like if you start there, you haven't even started to route. You don't have to route.
Right.
You can stay there if you want to. But
Oh.
if you want to route, you could choose a legal route location and leave that location. So I think it applies as well if you're in the process of routing.
Are you forced to continue to route, or can you stop right there? You can stop right there. We know that, but can you continue to route? That's a good question. That's a good question. Okay. Upon reaching the nearest legal woods or building hex, not adjacent to an enemy unit, you must stop. So in this case, you could stop because it is adjacent to an enemy unit. At that point, you have the option to continue to move or not. Now, if nobody was there, you'd have to stop there. But since that's adjacent to an enemy unit, we're not going to be dead for failure to route, but we can continue to route.
Okay.
Little trickiness
Good.
there. Broken units, if you're both broken, you're good to go. You're not going to be good long because then these might be rallied back. But yeah, little subtleties in it right there. One instance you die because he's just going to jump on you. The next instance you get to your leader. I mean, it's as simple as that. It's as simple as if you let's say you got 3 squads there, right? It's as simple as saving 3 squads or killing 3 squads by knowing the route rules. It's as simple as that. How can I route? I know the first thing I do is find your destination. Once you find your destination, how can I get there? 90% of your players will go straight there and be done. Looking at the map's game situation, even broken unit up here. This is a legal direction to go. Now we see him. Now we can't get closer. Now we go this way. But if you go this way, you just stop because you've reached your destination. It is not adjacent to an enemy unit. You may not continue.
Right. I can see the problem of arguing this with other people because it's such a thing to understand that not everybody does. So you sort of have to just come to an agreement and do something for the game.
I think what happens is they read the route rules casually, and they read the same thing, same process with just about everything else in the game. It's a casual read of it. And the funny thing is ASL players of 30 years won't do this. They'll go to V4.
Yeah, actually, I think route rules are easy. You need to be methodical.
Yeah,
Go
they're
through it
very
step by
structured.
step.
Yeah, like that's
If
why when you guys
if you don't do it step by step, you'll make a mistake.
Yep.
Okay.
Or you won't see an opportunity.
Right.
That's the biggest thing is you won't see. It's easy to route, right? Everyone goes, okay, I'm gonna route, and that's why, like, you grab the whole stack, right? Well, technically, you grab one guy, and if he dies, because oh shit, I forgot there was a guy over here. Now he's failure to route. A lot of guys, I've seen guys do this, move the whole stack. Oh, failure to route. Okay, they're all dead. Nope. First guy goes there, and now, this guy can go somewhere else. Sometimes it comes into play. A lot of guys just do it for casual. It would be great to say, okay, one guy's going to route there, next guy, if there's 2 or 3 other units, the rest of the guys follow. You could do that. You don't have to do it all the time, and you don't have to do it individually all the time, but know that there's a big difference, because what that happens then is it avoids the argument of, let's say you've got a leader and he was broken, right? And he's stacked with his units, and these guys are like, you've got one half squad and the other guy's like an elite unit, I don't know, or let's see, the other guy's a crew or some shit like that, a valuable unit, right? One's a garbage unit, one's a valuable unit, one's the leader. And let's say you go here, and then the guy says, oh, he's failure to route. Let's say, oh, okay, in that case, you know, because I have to route one guy at a time, I'm just going to route the half squad there. So it avoids that argument where, okay, which one did I route first? You know, with a broken leader don't need, you know, technically can't route with units. You know, they route individually just like everybody else. And it avoids a potential pitfall argument of no, which one would you have routed? And, you know, last time you routed a leader first or whatever, you know, it can make a difference. So a lot of people don't do it. They just kind of, most situations are straightforward, but there are some subtle situations. And again, like Craig said, just methodically go through it. Okay, what's the first thing you have to do? You have to find out where you need to route to. And then as you're looking around, you know, you see this location, you see that location. Okay, they say, okay, how can I get there? Can you get there with going in W6? Nope. X4? Nope. Can I get there directly? Yep. Can I move to V5 and get there? And if the answer is yes, then you look at V5. Okay, if I move to V5, it takes a split second. If I move to V5, does that bring anything? Does this move here, does a direct move into that location, is that any different than V5 than that location? If the answer is no, then you just go directly. If the answer is yes, then you go to V5 and you say, huh, that's nice. See ya.
And just to clarify, Stu, that if you can take a circuitous route, I can't even say it now, Mark.
Yeah, circuitous.
A roundabout route.
Yeah, roundabout.
Circuitous route. As long as you can get to your destination, your designated designated destination from known units at that moment.
Right. Right. You have to be able to reach there. I can't move out of movement factor range and go, oops, can't reach it. Oh well, I'm over here now. Yeah.
Well, or more appropriately, I couldn't go like if that guy wasn't there,
right.
I couldn't go V5, U5, and now it's like, oh, now I'll be moving closer to him,
right.
So therefore W4 is no longer my
right.
destination.
And that wouldn't be the route path has to be legal. Because this example of V5, U5, V4 is exact same illegality of going X4, Y4, Y6, X6, you know, whatever. It's the same illegality. That route path is not legal. That full route path is not legal. You know, so
Stu, on a completely different subject.
Yeah, absolutely.
Getting off your favorite topic. It's been a while since I've thought about this with vehicles, and I've kind of forgotten the subtleties of the definitions or of vehicles stopped, non-stopped, moving, in motion, and the effects of those.
Okay. It's actually rather simple.
In particular, like, well, what's that?
It's rather simple. Break it down. You are never in motion when that unit is actually moving in its movement phase. You are never in motion. Motion is a counter you put on the unit to track him outside of the movement phase.
Okay.
Okay. This counter will never be remaining on a counter, on a unit, if it is moving in that counter's movement phase. So when I say of that counter,
you're only in motion or motion status on during your opponent's turn, because that's when you would have the counter on the
or any other phase but that counter's movement phase.
Right.
And when I mean that counter, and I'll go for an example here, because people aren't going to be thinking of what I'm thinking about. Okay, you got a vehicle here. got a vehicle here. I'm just going to clone it. All right. It's your turn. You're going to move. I'm going to move the unit S5 first. I say, okay, he's in motion. You just take it off. And then you go 1. This unit is no longer in motion as soon as his movement phase starts. He's either moving, stopped, or not stopped. Stopped
Okay.
just means you have expended a, you have expended a stop MP before you've expended a start MP. That's pretty much
Right.
all it is. And so, let's say, so this unit is no longer in motion. It is now moving, because moving means that's exactly what you're doing. That's the category of your condition.
Okay.
So if he were to attempt a smoke placement, right? It's at the beginning of his movement phase. He stops, does smoke discharger if he has one. Let's say he has one. We roll smoke discharger. We do boom. Come on, give me a. His smoke discharger is 8. So he drops the smoke discharger, expends 1 movement point. Is he a moving target?
Well, he's a moving target as soon as he declares he is the vehicle you are moving.
Correct. And he's
Because
still,
he was in motion, therefore he is instantly a moving target.
right. He was in motion, and he has not expended a stop MP.
Right.
Okay, so he's still a moving target. Now, if he were stopped, if this was the case and he was not a motion vehicle, and he says, I'm going to drop a smoke discharger, and there's my smoke stick, I drop smokes, you defensive fire on him, because if I don't make the smoke discharger, I don't expend an MP.
Right.
Most players catch that. I've watched a couple games, most players I've caught that I've listened to, but the ones that share the discords. So he drops it, and he gets fired upon. Is that a moving vehicle?
Yes, he's moving.
Is he considered moving as for to hit modifier?
He hasn't expended a stop, so yes, he's moving.
No. This does not have that motion counter on it. It started without a motion counter.
Oh, started
Yeah.
without.
He's a stopped vehicle, and he expended a movement point to drop smoke.
Yeah, no, he's not moving.
He is not moving, and he stopped.
He stopped. Right.
Okay, so what happens then? The difference being is, if this gun fires on this unit, and he is stopped, he gets the point blank modifiers on the to hit roll. Okay, if he is non-stopped, he does not. If he starts and then drops smoke, he doesn't get the point blank modifiers, because he is not a stopped vehicle, or he has started the vehicle. He has expended a start movement point, and so therefore
wait.
he is non-stopped.
So he starts out, or we begin the movement phase. He
Right.
doesn't have a motion counter on him,
Right, he's a stopped
and he
vehicle. Yeah.
says, "Okay," and I'm going to do this. We'll put him here. He goes, "Okay, I'm going to start for 1."
Right.
Now, he's not he's not moving yet, right?
He is not a moving target. Correct.
So would I not get the -1 point blank?
No, moving.
sh-
Nope. It's got nothing to do with it.
Okay.
Moving has nothing to
Okay.
do with point blank. The
So
point
he's not moving, but he is non-stop.
non-stopped. Stopped and non-stopped are the qualifiers for point blank status.
So then, if let's flip it around here. Oops. He moves, and he comes driving up here, and for whatever reason, the gun can't shoot at him, and he stops.
Correct.
Now, we'll keep it easy first. In the advancing fire phase, he's going to fire on that target. Does he get the -2 point blank?
Well, we could do it in the defensive fire phase. Do the defensive fire phase. He'd say he fires on him in the defensive fire phase. What are the modifiers? Did the
Well,
vehicle?
I'm not talking about the defender. I'm not talking about the gun firing on the vehicle. I'm talking about the vehicle firing on the gun.
Oh, right. Well, the gun is the target. So the gun is a target-based determiner. So the gun is stopped, right? It's not a moving target. It's not in motion or moving target. So it is essentially you'll get the point blank. But your moving or motion status is irrelevant if you're the one doing the firing, because the fire, your modifiers on the firing, whether you moved or not, are different than point blank.
Okay. Well, there's case 25, and I guess it says. I guess part of what throws it off is I'm looking at ASL as well. So case 25 talks about non-stopped fire. So as long as I expended that stop movement point,
Right.
then as the firer, I get the -2 because my target.
Let me look at the
is
case
also
25.
not in motion,
I don't
not
think
moving or anything.
that's. Where's the hit charts? Where is it?
What's that?
I'm looking for the hit charts on the specific ones, on the short ones. Actually, not the chart. Here we go. You're saying case 25. No. Not applicable for motion, non-stop fire. Versus emotion, target-based.
But in this example, I expended a stop movement point, so I'll use a double negative here. He's not non-stopped. So he gets the -2 in that case.
That's different in ASL, looks like.
Well, actually, it's the same because in ASL that's case
L.
Point
Okay.
blank range NA if non-stop / motion fire / target.
Oh yeah, you're right. They just say it differently. Absolutely. If non-stopped motion fire. No. That's target. Motion fire. If you're a motion firer.
Right.
Then...
So if say it's in the movement phase and I'm using bounding fire, so I go 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to use bounding fire, and I don't expend a stop movement point. So therefore, I am non-stopped. So the point blank is NA. But if I expend a stop movement point, I am stopped, but I'm moving.
Right,
That's
you
where
have
I
to be
keep getting
stopped. Yeah, you
myself
have to be
confused.
stopped. The fire has to be stopped through the point blank.
Okay. But I'm moving.
But
So if he shoots at me, I'm stopped.
yes, but you get the
but
movement
I'm
modifiers.
moving. So he gets so he would, if he were shooting on the vehicle, there'd be a +2 for moving,
And the point blank
but there'd
stats.
also be a -2 for point blank because
Right.
I'm stopped.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and if you're moving the vehicle, the motion the motion counter is not applicable, so just remove it.
Right.
And then you just move like that. Yeah, absolutely. Stopped. You have to
Okay.
be stopped through the point blank. So if you start,
It's the moving, stopped, non-stopped.
Yeah.
Because you can be stopped and moving
yeah,
and not in motion.
right.
So
Well, you could start, stop, and still not be moving. Moving means you have entered a new hex during the play
Okay.
turn. So if you start, if I spin around and fire and do another move, fire, drop smoke, I'm not moving.
you're still not moving.
I'm not a moving target. I've expended movement
Right.
points, but I'm not a moving target.
Okay.
Again, motion only applies outside that unit, that specific unit's actual movement phase. So when he's done moving and he's expended all his movement points, and he can't expend any more, and he hasn't expended a stop movement point, then you put a motion counter on him, and he's done until his next movement phase.
Yeah. The part that was throwing me off is but non-stopped when it applies to the point blank modifier.
Right.
So
Right.
now I got it.
Yeah. So, but that's the big one. That's the big one there. And yeah, that's why vehicles are. That's why I feel vehicles are kind of boring, because as soon as you stop, he's going to hit you. You know, if you're close, he's going to hit. If you're further away, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. But vehicles are so easy to hit. I mean, that's all there's to it. It just seems kind of.
I think I've absorbed some of this information, but I have a super simple question for you, I think.
Okay.
If the vehicle is here, it's stopped, it's not in motion, there's no motion counters, whatever, it's stopped. The beginning of their turn, and they say, start the vehicle. Now, that's one. Does this guy get to shoot?
Sure.
So that's the same as like throwing smoke with a squad.
Yeah, you're expending movement factors or movement points. Now, the question is he starts. Does he get the point blank modifier?
No.
No, because he's non-stopped.
Right, because he's non-stopped. That's one way to increase your defense a little bit. Plus, he has the size modifier, which helps a little bit more. It's not going to make much of a difference, but if you're a small target, it can make a big difference. Super small target. So, every little that's essentially it's -1 you took away from him, and that's sometimes all that matters. But yeah. As soon as he starts, he's a non-stop target.
Thanks, Stu.
Yeah.
Yep.
And yeah, that's the way I kind of clarify it. Motion counters are outside that unit's movement phase. The term moving is applied to that counter's actual movement. And you have to enter a new hex to be considered moving. And then stopped or non-stopped is, did you expend a stop movement point before your last start movement point? And that's all there is to it. Did you stop, or have you started up again? And that's the only difference in the start-stop concept is, what did you expend last? And that will apply the point blank modifier. It has nothing to do whether you're going to get the +2 for moving. You know, because again, you can expending movement points doesn't mean you're moving. It just means you're expending movement points. In terms of defensive modifiers, this is not moving. This is expending movement points. Entering hexes is moving. That's where your +2 comes in. You have to enter a new hex to get the +2. Or the moving modifier, whatever case that might be. Yeah, and that could kill you. Now, of course, that's where, once you understand that, then you can understand the going into motion rule. So if he brings up other units, and because you're stopped, if he brings up a unit, let's see, he comes out from LOS, he goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, I'm going to go into motion. Roll my motion dice roll. Now, I'm non-stopped and I'm in motion. So, this guy, the difference in this potential to hit, it just changed by 4. Because now you're moving. Now you're considered a moving target, +2 to hit, and you're non-stopped, which just means the point blank modifier. Well, in that case, to be 3. The point blank modifier is also removed. So his defense in relation to this AA gun just increased by 3 dice roll modifiers. And you could change your covered arc, which means, like, you know, if he was like this, right, and this guy comes out of the trees and comes this way, you got to come out from LOS, and he goes in motion. He can go in motion and turn his tank the entire way around. Well, you're still going to be seen here, but let's say it's over here. You could turn your tank around, and then when this unit's movement phase comes, he doesn't have to spend start movement. He just enters the woods and gets the hell out of line of sight. You could remember, you could always change your vehicle covered arc and turret covered arc at the same time. You can change it wherever you want, and then go for that. So big difference. Just don't go into motion, because then you still have to spend movement points to turn your vehicle covered arc later if you didn't change it when you went into motion. And another thing, let's say this vehicle's here. Let's say the vehicle's right here, and he's in motion. Right? And this unit's got line of sight. And this unit comes up, he's got a Panzerschreck or some shit like that. And then, guess what? What can this unit do? he can attempt a motion roll. Even if you're in motion, you can attempt a motion roll. What that does is it allows you to change your covered arc to get the hell out of dodge. If you're in motion and some guy comes around the corner like that, from the last time you moved, right? Because you can't attempt more than one motion attempt in that phase, right? The movement, it doesn't matter. You get one shot at it. But if he's in motion, he can still attempt a motion roll so he can change his vehicle covered arc or turret covered arc, in the case may be. And that will allow you to try to get out of dodge. There might be some terrain, you get the hell out or something like that. That was open ground, or just move in there. That way you won't get killed or something. So yeah, reread those moving, motion, and motion attempt rolls, and then like I said, once you start to get a grasp on non-stopped, stopped, moving, and motion, then the moving, motion attempt rules and why you would use them become a little more clear.
So do you always have to expend one start before you move the turret or the vehicle?
If the vehicle is moving,
no, let's say it's just stopped.
It's just right there. I'm just right there, and I want to fire in the movement phase in this direction.
Yeah.
Yes, you would have to expend a movement point to change a turret cover arc. In this case, it would be 1, 2.
But do you spend one to start?
Nope. But if you're changing your turret covered arc without moving or expending movement points in some other manner, the turret covered arc change is free. If you're just changing the turret cover arc to fire at something, you pay for it. Otherwise, I can go up here with a turret covered arc. Oh, dang it. I can go up here and then change it 3, and that's a free covered arc change.
But you still pay the penalty.
No penalty.
No penalty. Oh.
No penalty. You're just changing turret cover arc.
Huh.
You're going to be moving. You're not going to hit anything. I mean, you're moving. It's going to be like +5 or so. You're just not going to hit anything.
So you're getting ready for the next turn, sort of. Or your next
well, a lot of
shot.
times what this does, in certain cases, like in this tank here, it has a slightly better armor. If actually that's the whole armor, so it doesn't really matter in this tank either. So it doesn't matter. Some tanks have better turret armor or better frontal armor than they do. These are bad examples.
Yeah.
Let's say
If you see Japanese tanks, they'll have rear turrets. They'll have rear MG turrets. Sometimes you might turn your turret around because you on fire.
What? That's an assault gun. It doesn't have one. Okay. Gee, if I choose a better vehicle. Man, the Russian tanks suck. Here we go.
I think there's some Russian, some of the early Russian.
Like this one. So if he moves forward and someone's gonna shoot him in the ass, he wants to turn the gun around in case he gets hit in the front. In case he gets hit in the turret, because now it's a frontal turret shot, which is 11 instead of a 6, and it's not a rear shot if he gets hit in the turret. So you want to do this when you're moving away from people if your armor's a little bit better. Plus you can do that and then fire at them, as you're moving, or when you start you can fire and then move. So, but yeah, that's kind of what you want to do. In this case, the one thing you could do in this case, right? Even if the armor is exactly the same, you still might want to move your turret in that direction. Why would you want to do that? Even though the armor is the same.
Like you said, better protection on the turret, right?
That prevents a rear shot. If you hit the turret, that's not a rear shot on your vehicle. It's a frontal shot, even though the armor is 1. Now, if you hit the rear shot at the hull, you're going to have a -1 to kill. I think that applies in starter kit. I don't know. But,
It does.
okay. Yeah. So it provides you slightly better armor, especially for machine guns firing at you. That can keep that vehicle alive for to be honest with you. Any real weapon firing on it doesn't really matter. But your low caliber weapons, it can make all the difference in the world. Just use the rules, just like routing. Just use the rules. Use the principles step by step. I know my armor's better. I don't get a rear mono fire when my turret's facing you. If you hit the turret, that's all you can do. Just use the rules. And like I say, routing, because people just throw routing out the window. They just think it's you know, a phase between the defensive fire phase and the advanced phase, you know, we know better. We know better than that. Because we want to keep our units alive and not get them killed in V4. We keep them alive, your opponents will die in V4. And, you know, any squad, half squad leader, 6+1 leader that gets out of that situation, even if he's broken and he never rallies again, even if a 6+1 leader is there, breaks and never rallies again, and remains down here, broken for the rest of the game, what does that do? Stops any enemies from routing this direction. But if they're gone, they can route that direction freely, just like you routed. A broken 6+1 in the middle of the sweet field stops 400 million screaming broken Russians from coming that direction. As long as they can see them. So even broken units have value. So therefore, it's up to you to save them as best as possible. Even if they're broken, even if you're never going to rally them later, they stop broken route paths. Period. That's all there's to it. Line of sight. Doesn't matter how far. Line of sight. So, and it might make a difference in ASL, but maybe not. Yeah, it might make a difference in ASL. I'll have to check it out. But this is an ASL, so we don't have to worry about it. And yeah, so big difference. Good questions. Good questions, gentlemen. A lot of brain burn in there. I thank Craig to providing his example and the inspiration for today's discussion. It's important, and also Mark and the other guys that have very similar things, just so we can reflect on our games a little more, and know that even though when the shit hitting's a fan, even if it hits up very often, you know, just keep trudging at it, and then you'll gain great satisfaction out of the games that you know that you stuck in mentally with those games, and then you come out of the other end beaten and broken, but maybe victorious, right? And then a lot of times that can provide a really good experience for your opponent as well, whether or not he wins or loses. You know, it's just a matter of, okay, did I make it closer? You know, I thought it was a shoe-in, but you ripped me apart with that HMG, and like I barely got guys across and barely won, which made it more exciting. And that's all you want. You want an exciting game. Nobody wants a boring game. I don't care how badly you beat an opponent, or if you do, then you probably don't belong in our group, because we're all about having fun and try and make it fun for the other guys. At least that's what I'm trying to do. So, but and point things out to your opponents. You know, if they're rough on something, if it's just a casual game, you guys are just kicking back, just say, hey, you know what? If you go to V5, you know, you could save him. You know, it's up to you. It's up to you to do that. Doesn't really matter. Again, you've got a lot of ASL in your life to go. And it's not for a stupid blue ribbon or, you know, starter kit 1 expansion pack or something like that. Well, if it's a tournament, it might be one thing, but I'd even probably say it in a tournament. I really don't give a shit, you know. If he misses a route path, I won't give him a perfect route path to make him back to 10-3 to come back, but, you know, as long as it doesn't hurt me too much, it's like, you know, but it all depends on your mood, you know. Sometimes it's just tense, so.
So Eric Zag is here, and he was the one I was playing at 88s at Zon when I rolled that snake eyes and killed his 88. And I was wondering if he's listening, if he had any thoughts on my luck.
Yeah, I was hoping you wouldn't bring that up. I'm still hurting from that one.
Well, we were talking about giving up and keeping going, and I remember I was in holy bad shape until I got that snake eyes on you.
Oh man,
That was devastating, actually. That was the exact opposite of what we were talking about tonight. I was riding a high wave and it came crashing down.
Yeah. Like we're in Craig's game. I'm sure his opponent was riding a high wave. It flipped, and it could flip, and it could flip back. You know, it could flip back on him. But sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, that's what kind of makes it fun. You know, it's like you think you got it in the bag, but don't ever let your guard down, because, you know, you start rolling 10s or he starts doing some good moves or something like that, then you're going to be in a world of hurt. But just stick with it. Like I said, just keep fighting, and that can make for a better experience for both you guys. And that's kind of what it's all about. Because there's plenty of games. You know, we've all played a lot of games. We can't remember them all, so try to make some of the games more memorable. Therefore, you can enjoy the hobby a little bit better and your own experiences for as much time as we put into this. We don't want to have 1,000 games that we don't remember and one that we do. We want 500 games that we kind of remember, and then 500 that we probably want to forget. That sort of thing. So, and that's part of the hobby, is just enjoying your hobby. And if you don't remember, it's like being drunk and passed out. If I don't remember how good of a time I had, did I have a good time? Yeah, you had a great time. Everyone's putting women's clothes on you or something like that, or walking you down the street. So, but it's always good to have a good experience. So, all right, gentlemen, with that's about all I got. I hope you, thanks for your questions. I hope you learned a little something. We always learn something all the time. And I guess I'll catch you guys next week.
Thanks again.
All right, take care, gentlemen.
Good night.
All right, well, thanks a lot for watching. Again, we covered some mental stability or mental cues that you can do. Take a break. When you have a bad turn, go get a glass of water, throw some ice in your cup, come back. We cover routing again, a large section on routing, lots of questions asked about routing, especially in situations where you might think you're stuck in a pickle. Just goes to show the importance of routing and knowing how to use the routing rules to your advantage so you can keep your units alive. Even broken units serve a purpose, and it really comes to show, especially when the enemy has to route first. Your units are broken, he can't route towards your direction or back that way or something like that, and then you get to route away pretty much safely. So really, really, really focus on how you can better your route paths, where you can go that if you break, you can easily route away, and things like that. And you'll see some improvements. We have tons of videos. Go find the other Tactical Tuesday videos on routing. There's a lot of them. We speak hours and hours and hours and hours about routing. Different examples, where you want to go, where you don't want to go, etc., etc. Anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys later on Tactical Tuesday.